I grew up, it's in New South Wales, in the Southern Highlands region. We grew up out in the middle of the bush. There's absolutely nothing around. And this is out near the escarpment that goes down to the coast there. We just grew up there since I was a young kid. It went on for over 20 years since I lived there. And
what was the nearest town? Where were you?
it's Macquarie Pass National Park. It's all bushland through there, and there's nothing in there at all.
Does that go all the way up to, is it Lake Avon?
Yeah, it goes right up through there, and yeah, there's nothing in there but a couple of old fire trails that they don't upkeep anymore.
Yeah, right. And what's the landscape look like?
Classic Australian bush, and then there's a few swampy areas in there, with it being, near the escarpment, so it's elevated, and there's a few cliffs and caves and stuff like that. We moved in there as a family when I was young, so only 3 or 4 or something like that. And, you don't really notice anything growing up. You always hear the odd noises here and there, and my dad just, puts it down to that's just the normal noises of the bush, and it's off the old house making a noise and stuff like that. We lived in a really old shack, essentially, but it's one of those really old houses that has an outside toilet. It's only, say 3 metres from the house, but still, you've got to go to the toilet when it's dark, and you never want to go by yourself.
It's pretty scary if you're a little kid.
Yeah, just growing up, you don't know what it was, but as soon as you walked out there at night time, you felt like, something's watching you. Never wanted to go alone. And then as I got older, as a teenager, you start hearing things on the old corrugated iron behind the old toilet there, like something's standing there or banging on it, stuff like that.
On the toilet or the house?
Yeah.
On the toilet?
The toilet, yeah.
While you're in the toilet, going to the toilet?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Growing up, my dad always used to say, if there was something out there in the bush, that wanted to hurt us, it would have come and hurt us already because we've lived there for that many years. I reckon my dad knows, that there's what it is. There's a Yowie there, for example, or a family of them. He doesn't admit to it. He won't talk about it.
Is he still in the same house?
Yes, they still live there. We've all moved out, and my younger sister still lives there. That's just the normal sort of things growing up. You notice a few things, but you don't really think much about it. And then I was probably about 20. So I'm 30 now. So probably about 20 is when I started noticing a few more things. And it's through the colder months of the year. So about this time of year, about autumn, the activity always kicked up a lot more. So I noticed whatever it was, or I reckon there was probably a family of them, would come through the area this time of year. The activity had really increased for this 4 to 6 months of the year. I noticed a few things and asked Mum and Dad and the other family members and my brother and sister, and they sort of never wanted to talk about it. In the bush, you'd hear, tree knocks and stomping around, and you'd think something was in there. You get the torch out and you'd try and see, and you'd see nothing at all that sort of stuff. And then, my dad just put it down to, don't worry about it, this and that. And I'm like, no, I've looked into this. It sounds like there's a hairy man, as my dad calls it, or a Yowie. And my dad goes, no, the only thing I've heard of that is there was one of the really old timers that lives over the back from us, over the hill, said he's seen a few hairy men over the years. I'm just like, could be what it is, Dad. Dad's like, no, not that. They don't exist and all that sort of stuff.
I wonder why he doesn't want to talk about it or admit it. Maybe because it might scare him too much if he admits to himself that there's something there.
Yeah, I reckon, because growing up, 3 kids, he's had 3 young kids living out there in the middle of nowhere. I reckon he's known what it is, and he's had to live with it and admit it, because he's either had an encounter himself that he doesn't want to talk about or something, but he definitely knows, but he won't admit it. And then, one night I, shining the torch looking for these noises, you see a set of eyes, almost white but almost pale yellow, set of eyes, 8 foot off the ground staring at you. I remember very vividly once looking at it, I seen the set of eyes, probably about 20 metres into the bush. Couldn't see anything else but the glowing eyes. They're about 8 to 9 foot up, and I'm like, it could be an owl perched on a tree. The eyes went down into almost like whatever it was, squatted, in a squatting position. You could see it blinking, but there were no shadows in the way. Like, it didn't go behind a branch or anything like that. It just squatted down. There was nothing in the way. So if it was an owl, it would have flew away, or you would have seen it fall, or if it hopped to another branch, you would have seen the branch in the way. You could see the eye shine. It's the same as any other animal's eye shine. You can see it from the reflection of the torch miles away. The torch actual light doesn't go that far. Just things I pick up growing in the bush, a bit of hunting and stuff like that, so you know what eyes are different between like a fox and a cow and a horse at night time. Yeah. They all glow differently. And then my younger sister had a boyfriend at the time. It's her ex-boyfriend now. But he come up and he lived with us for a while, a period of time. And he started noticing the same things. And then my sister sort of clued onto it a little bit. This other guy, Luke, his name was, he clued onto it and said he was seeing the same things as me. And then he started working for me because I was running my own business. So we'd get up at 5 a.m, still dark, get things ready, load the trailer up. And that was our morning routine during the week. He used to say he'd wait inside until he seen me get up, because every time he'd get up, he thought there was something there or something just staring at him, or he'd hear something run away as soon as he come out, and he'd say the same thing as I say. It's not a kangaroo. It's you can hear very well it's something running. Bipedal is the word. Yeah, and very heavy. This time of year, the activity would very well increase. We noticed a pattern between the two of us that this time of year, living out there, just on dark, every now and then you'd hear a scream or a moan, almost like the foxes, like the wild foxes here in Australia. They make a screaming noise.
Yeah, they sure do.
Almost similar to that, but it was almost like if a really heavy-set bloke with a real deep voice made it. Almost like that, but it, echoed for kilometres right through. And
that happened quite a few times, did it?
Not very often. We've heard it probably 10 to 15 times over a couple of years that this activity really increased.
Always at the same time, so in the evening around autumn?
Yeah. So where we live on a train line, and up the top of this hill, you'd hear it, and then you'd hear it again when it was at the bottom of the hill, and then you'd hear it when it was near our property, like in the bush, and then you'd hear it when it was past our property. You could nearly do it at the same time, so you could nearly pick when it was going to be here, so we'd go outside and try and see what it was. But any time we stirred it up, you'd just hear the running, and it was gone, quicker than anyone could run, especially through the bush, how thick it is. Yeah, it was just gone. Whatever it was could run that quick.
You and your sister's ex were feeling anxious or uneasy about it?
Yeah, because we're curious and we go out there and we've obviously stirred things up.
Did it sound like more than one creature?
No, at this stage, no. At this stage, it just sounds like one. It happened really, really bad one night, and it was only me, Luke, and my sister home that night. We all sort of heard it, knew what happened. And then as soon as the sun cracked, me and Luke took off in the direction it went, which was into the deep bush towards the escarpment, where there's just kilometres, hundreds of kilometres of bush. And we took off into there and followed it as far as we heard it, like to where it went, looked for any signs of, fresh tracks and this and that. No track on the old train line there. There's an old little road that runs next to it. A couple of kilometres into the bush, Luke got real scared, just real uneasy. He said, no, there's something here, something watching us. Then I sort of just went real quiet and clicked on that you couldn't hear anything else. There was no other insects, birds, anything like that. You couldn't hear anything but, the trees rustling with a little bit of the breeze. Then the bad smell came across, like something was dead. And then, that scared Luke a lot. And I'm just like, well, there's something dead around here. Let's look for it. And I couldn't find anything.
That smell you were smelling, it smelled like something dead, a dead animal or something.
Living in the bush, you know what the dead things smell like in a country town. You know what the wombats smell like when they're dead, and the kangaroos and the rabbits and stuff like that. And it was none of those distinct smells. It was definitely smelled like something was dead, mixed with a bit of, like a rotten garbage smell, but it had like a heat to it, like it was a warm smell. Hard to explain. But I still remember it very, very vividly. It's very warm, dead sort of smell.
Okay.
Almost like I had a heat to it, but it was a cold day.
You mentioned that it was autumn, so it wasn't that hot an evening.
No. Well, we always prefer to go walking in the bush on a colder day because there's less snakes, because usually a lot of snakes in the area. We're doing that, and then he smelt that. This Luke was uneasy, so he sort of just stood there. And I circled around, a bit of a perimeter and looked for anything dead or any other signs, and it was just nothing really. And then clued on again that when I looked back at Luke from about 10 metres away, all the trees, the gum trees, they're almost like a paperbark gum tree in this area. They were all ring-barked, essentially, by scratching, but that was about 10 foot up. The trees weren't touched down the bottom, but about 10 foot up, all these trees, probably about 10 to 20 trees, was just scratches.
One of the theories that I've heard is the hairy man is using its nails, its finger and index finger nails, to get into where there are grubs under the surface. Do you remember whether there was a uniformity to all of those scratches? Did it look like there was a purpose behind them?
I don't know. It was almost like territorial. I did notice on the way out there was a odd tree here and there with the same marking. Not as bad, definitely similar. So it was almost like it was a trail for them. I got a lot of Aboriginal heritage in my family as well. I do know a lot about the bush, and these trees wouldn't have had grubs in them. I did think of that. These trees wouldn't have had grubs in them. Not
the kind of tree that attracts grubs?
A bit too young. The grubs will get in the older trees. It's easy for them. These trees were just fairly young, still thick, very healthy. There weren't, me looking at the trees, there weren't any signs of grubs in the trees. I think it might have been a territorial thing of once you get to that spot, that might have been a warning to just turn around and fuck off, sort of thing.
Luke's standing in the clearing that you've just noticed, and you've noticed all the scratches, and he's feeling really uneasy. You're feeling uneasy. Your sister was there too? No, she didn't want to come. Luke got too uneasy. Were you feeling the same uneasiness that he was?
No, I didn't feel like anything was watching us at that stage. But, that's as far as we went that day. So we went back. Since then, or that night, like the next night, the activity just got worse.
Got worse as in more frequent?
Yeah. That night I was out doing a few things, and it was just me, my sister and Luke home for a while, for a couple of days I think it was. So I was out that night, and they rang me and said, it's back, it's bad, like you better get home. So I got home real quick. Would have been 15 minutes and I was back, probably just before midnight. They said whatever it was is in this bit of a forest. Like there was a forest all around, but there was one little bit that was a pine forest next to our house. And it says, whatever it is in there. And so shine the torch and you could see the eyes. And then the second set of eyes lit up. I'm like, oh, shit, there's more than one of them. Told Luke to keep the torch on him. So he's got the torch on them. And then I can hear up over the train line, which is right next to the house in that bush, there's another, at least one, walking around in there.
So you're thinking there are three?
So there's at least three of them. We're looking at these eyes. One set of eyes is about 8-9 foot off the ground. One set of eyes is probably 6 foot off the ground. And then this other one, the other noise I could hear over the train line in the bush, it was making a big racket, but not as big of a racket as we'd heard most nights.
Pushing trees, stomping, what kind of noise was it?
It was almost like they ripped a tree out to hit another tree. It was, banging, and then you could hear the trees shaking and crunching, and with the train line, because the train line was risen, it was up higher, a bit of a valley down into the bush, and you could hear it throwing stuff up and crashing onto the train lines, landing there, rocks and sticks landing up there and all that sort of stuff.
Were the eyes, the two sets of eyes, the same colour?
Yeah.
That whitish yellow that you mentioned?
Yes.
Like in different heights, but...
Just a different height, same, pretty much the same size, yeah. You could see them blinking, which was kind of freaky, just staring at us. The whole time this noise is happening, just staring. So...
How did you both react?
Well, I'll go and get the gun out of the safe. That's my first thought. I've got a licence for guns, always have, so I go and got the little rifle out and walked over there, and they took off. That was it. You just hear the crunching, the banging, and then that's it. You can hear the noise, just crunching, banging, they're running through the bush till they're gone, and that happens pretty quickly, which always surprised me. That night, me and Luke took off trying to chase them down our paddock and up the driveway, and they were long gone. before we even got to the end of our clearing, to the bush. They moved that quick through the bush. And after that night, we sort of clued on, done a bit more research and clued on that, all right, so it's a Yowie for sure. It's got to be.
Why do you think they were all there that night?
I'm thinking we pissed them off by following them, the trail. I don't think they've ever had anything follow the trail before. I think they must have been watching us or something, but we definitely pissed them off somehow. That was sort of that night, and it ramped up a bit. We heard all the noises and that sort of stuff.
This was the night after the 3 visitors?
Yeah,
yep.
The night after I realised there was at least 3 of them.
Yep.
A night or 2 after that, we all went out for dinner, like as a family, and we got back pretty late, probably about 11, 12 o'clock at night. We'd taken 2 or 3 cars. So my sister and her boyfriend took their own car, but we all got back home at a similar time on this property, and they lived in a granny flat that was separate to the house. When we got home, they pulled up there, and I sort of pulled up the back and walked down. As soon as I hopped out and my dad hopped out of his car, whatever, we heard my sister scream. So we all took off down there, 10 seconds max, and we got there. She's screaming, and Luke's white as a ghost. And she's screaming, somebody touch me, somebody touch me. There was someone here. Like, I hopped out of the car, somebody come up behind me and touch me. And I'm just like, well, there's no one here. Our property's cleared for a couple of acres. We got the floodlights on, and there's nothing around. She's like, I heard it run, it took off. I'm trying to get a word out of Luke, and he's just frozen stiff. I'm just like, Luke, what did you see? He's like, oh, I seen it. He's like, I seen it. He's like, there was like a big man there. He went to grab Amy, and as soon as I turned around with the torch, he took off, and he ran that quick, he was gone. I'm just like, so you seen it? He's like, yeah. He's like, it looked like it was going to grab Amy, like your sister. I'm like, so, okay, well, this is getting a bit serious then. That sort of buggered Luke up after that, sort of shut down a bit.
Are you still in contact with him? I wouldn't mind having a chat to him.
I have reached out to him. He's in the process of getting back to me with a few details, and he'll probably contact you himself. I think he said he will. Yeah, so Luke's seen it, and Amy felt it grab her and turned around, and it was gone, so it could move that quick.
Did she actually see it, or she just felt something touch her?
No, she felt something touch her, and like she turned around, she could hear the running, and it was gone.
Touch her on the back or the arm, or?
Yeah, come up behind her. I think it touched her on maybe the right. It tried to grab her on the right shoulder. I remember after that, my mum and dad went away for a weekend in their caravan. So again, it was just me, my sister, and a boyfriend home. Yeah, late one night, my sister comes running down in the shed and says she can hear it coming again. So I'm like, all right, well, if it's been hanging around and it's tried to grab your sister and been hanging around my shed, like, let's show it we're not afraid of it, essentially. So we heard it coming down, the normal noise. We heard the yelp or the scream. I don't know how to describe it, but we heard that, and then we heard it again. I'm like, right, this is where it's coming through this part of the forest. It's going to be here again. I went and got the gun out, and we had the torches out, this and that. Luke heard it on the other side of the train line. I'm like, oh, it's bloody tricking us. I'm like, quick, go over there. I'm going to stay over here in case it's the 3 of them or 4 of them, however many, at least 3 of them. I'm like, go over there, see if you can see it again, and try and scare the shit out of it. I said, I'll stay over here and see if it comes through the normal route. So they're over there. They went through right up on the train line, and I couldn't see him or hear him at that point. I'm just waiting there with the torch off in the dark, just standing still. Yeah, I heard this big crunching, banging, walking through, and then it stopped right in front of me. So I'm like, okay, this Yowie's walked up and obviously realised I'm here and stopped about 20 metres away from me in the bush. And I'm in the clearing of our property on the fence line. I just stood there, didn't do anything for probably a minute. I'm like, I've got to do something. So I turned the light on, and it took off. It didn't go in the normal direction. It took off towards, there's a big paddock next to us. It's a big clear paddock for a section through the trees. And it took off towards there. So I'm like, oh, great. I'll be able to see what it is in this clearing. I ran down there. He wasn't far from where I was. He'd had to circle around a bit. So I could hear it crashing through the bush. And then I ran down there, got to the clearing. There's a big post there on the edge of the clearing. So I stopped there, turned the torch off again. I'm waiting for it to come out, and it wouldn't. So I climbed up on top of this big old fence post, big strainer thing, climbed up on top of there and squatted down. So I'm probably 10 foot in the air now. Just waited, and I heard a few noises. So I turned the torch on again, and it took off. That's when I seen it for the first time.
What did you see?
Essentially, there was a really good photo I found years ago on the internet that was pretty close to what I've seen. But essentially, it would have been 8 to 10 foot, just heavy set build, Yowie with. It didn't have overly long, scraggly hair. It was definitely all covered in hair. This is night time. It's only about 20 metres away from me. Took off running to the east. The scrub was a bit tall, so I didn't get a good look at below its knees or anything like that, but it was definitely very big, definitely covered in hair. When I got the torch on it, it was very, very black, dark fur on the tips. It was almost like the reddish tinge.
Did you see a face?
I didn't see the face because it was running across and away from me. So I didn't see the face, but the back of the head, it wasn't like it had hair, like long hair like a person. It was just even sort of hair all the way up and over, a bit scruffy on top. I remember its ear. I could see one of its ears. This ear on this side of me. It would have been the left side I could see the most.
Where on the head was that positioned? Like similar to a human?
Similar to a human, maybe a bit higher, but didn't stick out at all. Like it was full flat, like didn't stick out. It was grown in to it, yeah.
Did you notice a neck?
I remember that. No. I could notice a bit of a neck movement, but it wasn't like it had a neck. It was like the muscles on top of your shoulders were just that big. It was like that was its neck. And I could see that hair wasn't overly long. It was just almost even.
There was hair covering all of it, or were there any bald patches?
Not that I could see. I mean, I'd assume there'd be a bit of a bald patch probably under its arms and that, but it was dark and it was moving quick. So I didn't get a good look. And then... and
it was running, right?
It was running.
Was it moving its arms at the same time?
It was running very oddly. It was moving very, very quick, but it was almost like it didn't have ankles or something like that, because it was running very oddly. Same sort of motion, just it's hard to explain, like running flat foot on a road. Its arms would run normally, and then it's like, when you run, your arm goes with your opposite leg. It was almost like every two, steps or something, it'd skip a beat. But yeah, its arms were very long and even. It's not like they had big muscles up top. Very long and even right down to its big-ass hands. You didn't see the palm or anything, but big-ass hands and fingers. Fingers like big fat sausages. They were halfway down. Between its, would have been its knee and its ankle, they were halfway, like, between there. Like, they were down on its shin. Well, that's what it looked like when it was running. And this thing was standing upright, like it wasn't crouched over. So it had very long arms. That's what it looked like. And, yeah, it was sort of just running pretty much like a human would. Bending its elbows and its knees, essentially, just running a bit awkwardly.
Went from right to left in front of you, left to right?
Yeah, so it was at the right and it went to the left, took off, heading east, and I got a good look at the left side of it. It didn't turn around to look at me or anything like that. It just took off. And, yeah, I was able to get a shot off on it with the rifle. And I think the thing that scared me that much was I've actually seen it. I'm like, nobody's going to believe me. Except probably Luke, because he's seen it. He said he's seen it. I said, nobody's going to believe me. This shit doesn't happen. So within the split second of running, I've seen it, realised what it was. I've lined it up in the scope and I shot it.
Okay. Did you hit it?
Yeah, I've actually... Oh, yeah, I got it. I would have got it in the left shoulder.
What happened then?
Probably a bad judgment call for me. I got the 22 caliber rifle out. It's just my little rifle. It was a hollow point bullet. Still going to hurt. It would have really wounded it. It didn't even make a noise. It didn't skip a step. Just kept running.
How long did you have it in view for?
All up, probably 20 seconds.
You reckon you hit it in the left shoulder?
Yeah, within the first 5 seconds, I would have risen up, lined it up, shot it, got it in the shoulder. Like, I know I got it because when I hit it, I seen a little puff. Almost like a bit of fur sort of puffed out or something. But
Okay.
I've definitely hit it, and you hear the oomph when you get it, with the bit of the echo in the valley of the rifle. So I'm like, I've hit it. And then I kept watching it, and I took my eye off the scope and just watched it normally. The light's still on it. It didn't even phase it. Just kept running off into the bush. And then I was that shaken up. I couldn't get off the post. I fell off it. Just trying to climb down. I fell down. I'm shaking. I'm like, I swear I hit the thing, and it didn't even phase it. I'm just like, oh, shit. I reckon I've just pissed the bloody thing off, and it's going to be back. Because after that, it ran down into the scrub, and down there, it used to be an old tip. I think. There's a heap of rubbish and shit down in there, and you could hear it banging on stuff and throwing stuff. It was having a really big tantrum. Like, it was pissed off. I went down there the next day, it made a mess. There was shit thrown everywhere. So I stayed there and listened to that for the next probably half an hour until it went away. And I thought to myself, well, if it's down there making all this racket and wants to come back up, that's okay. I'm probably going to have another crack at it again. You know, what's the point of running away? I've done my research on it. I wanted to see one of these things, and I did. So I'm not going to run away from seeing it. If it comes back, I want to see it again. So yeah, I just sort of waited there. It didn't do anything, just sort of got pissed off and left. That quieted down after that for the season, I guess. Started to warm up a bit and quiet down. And
nothing happened the next night?
No, the next night, nothing happened at all. And then the night after that, you know, you could just hear the normal noises. It was just passing through again. That was it. We didn't go out and stir it up anymore after that. We thought we'd just let it be for a while.
Did you go out near where you shot it the next day in the light to see, was there any blood?
Yeah.
Blood on the ground? Or?
No, nothing. The little rifle that I shot it with and the little hollow point rifle, it would have went in, and then it's supposed to go into one side and take a big chunk out of the other. With hitting the big game, it would have just went in and done nothing. So there wouldn't have been a blood splatter or anything like that. But I couldn't see anything. No fur, no nothing at all. Done a lot of research on him since then. So's Luke. And then Luke came back to me one night with a bunch of stuff he'd read on, apparently there's theories on Yowies can be, interdimensional, I guess. Yeah. From what I've saw and what we've experienced, I don't think that would be the case. I mean, it could very well be. But just from what I know I've definitely seen something flesh and blood.
And you feel like you hit it with your rifle?
When you shoot and you hit something that sort of close to you, 20, 30 metres away, you can hear it when it hits it.
You didn't hit a tree?
There were no trees. This paddock was clear. This bullet would have, with a small caliber rifle, by the time it got to the tree line, it would have just dropped to the ground. But I definitely hit something, which definitely hit flesh and blood, because that was the sound.
That was about 10 years ago that happened, right?
Would have been about 10 years ago, yeah.
After that night, you said it started, things quietened down. What about the next time? Did you have another experience after that? Not a big one. That quieted down, and as it did that sort of year, it sort of goes away between the warmer months. I think they migrate, to be honest. They're somewhere wetter. It was very wet and damp there that time of year, so maybe that's just the climate they're used to and they've adapted to. The opposite time of the year, it does get very hot, 40, 50-degree days. And I'm thinking they don't like that, so they'll migrate somewhere else for that period of year. Or maybe they hibernate. I don't know. And then, that quieted down, and I sort of moved out. Mum and Dad and my sister didn't notice, or they just learned to live with it, I guess. Don't stir it up. It just does what it does and it'll leave us alone, which is probably true, because it only sort of hung around when we went out and pissed it off. Your sister's still living there. Has she had any more experiences, or she's... That's one of the reasons why I sort of reached out. It's coming into that sort of year again, and my sister still lives there, and nobody believes us. My sister does a little bit, but she doesn't like talking about it. But she did tell me one day that it started up again and it's getting a bit bad. What does bad mean? Frequent? It got a lot frequent, and it's picking up. The noises are a lot closer, and it's stirring up a lot. If I seen another one just in the bush, I mean, I've got no means to harm it at all. That's not what I want to do. But if it's going to keep hanging around and, threaten us, and obviously I've got the kids and all that stuff now, and the nephews and that, then it becomes an issue. But if it's just going to keep its distance, that's fine. It can do its thing and we'll do our thing. But the only reason I shot at it that night was because, it was very threatening. I seen that thing that night, and it's sort of, I wouldn't say buggered me up a bit, but I've seen one, and I'm, I guess, one of the lucky people that have seen one, and if people believe me, I know I've seen it. I believe you. It's just one of those things. I'd like to hopefully track one down and see another one, and it'll just confirm it even more. I've got a copy of Tony Healy and Paul Cropper's book, Yowie in Search of Australia's Bigfoot. It has a fantastic catalogue of cases, like a few hundred cases. But that's an excellent resource if you haven't seen that already.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
An amazing amount of information. They're both fantastic researchers. They have written and put together a really good book. And I think they're working on their next one. When I spoke to Tony last, they were working on their next one. Yeah, if you're interested in the subject and you want to research more, I highly recommend getting a copy of that.
Okay, I'll do that.
How do you feel about the whole subject now?
Oh, I still feel that, it's, like I said, everybody just laughs at me. I don't care anymore, though. So that's obviously why I've reached out to the forum.
Yeah.
I might as well just talk about it with people that have had their own experiences.
One of the most important things for us, apart from offering support to people who've had terrifying encounters or are afraid that, everyone thinks they're crazy, it's so important to document everything.
Yeah.
So we can build this case for the existence of these creatures. The more documentation we have of people's direct experiences, the better. The more of a case that we can put forward. So, and if you do get a chance to write down more details and you remember more details, please do that, because that'd be great.